Hello, good morning. Happy Wednesday. I'm Peaceful Nick the Medium, and I am joined by the wonderful Aunt Jen. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm a little slower today, which sometimes I welcome. Like instead, just kind of like finding out like why are you a little bit slower today and then just kind of embracing that. So I'm a little bit slower today. How are you doing?
I'm a little slow today because I took all my jungly plants out of my office yesterday and moved them downstairs. And it took like 20 trips up and down the stairs because there was a big jungle
You
back
have a
there.
lot of you have a lot of plants.
And and now my legs hurt. I'm like, oh man, I
That's
need
always
to
fun.
do that. Go up and down the stairs a little more. But yeah, I'm doing great. I'm very excited. Hello, Vivian. I hope you're feeling better. Hi, Gina. I'm excited. How's the weather where you are? I actually have my window open for the first time in 6 months.
Oh, it's going to be a nice cooler sunny day.
Good.
So the rain is definitely on its way, right? And like today is not a rainy day and it's not going to be a hot day, which that's always nice too. So it's going to be a nice mild day per se with the sun beaming down.
Yeah, that's how it is here. And we are completely across the country from each other.
Hmm.
Hi, Dawn. Good morning. Today, oh, also, I was going to say something else. I can't remember what. It's just gone out of my brain.
Well, if it comes
Um,
back, let us know.
I will. Today, we're going to talk about guilt. And everyone here, I am sure, perfect in Northern California. Yeah, that's where Aunt Jen is. Um, Hi, Holly. Oh, I'm so glad you made it. Today, we're going to talk about
Hey,
guilt.
Holly.
And I'm sure everyone here has things they feel weird or guilty about. And we're going to discuss it today. And before we get started, I'm going to just throw up a couple of announcements. And then if you have any questions about guilt or stories about feeling guilt or anything, put them in the chat and we will address them. As always, I have my $11 3-card email tarot reading available at peacefulnickthemedium.com. I have a new $49 special for the holiday season, 20-minute spiritual guidance and or card reading that is not a mediumship reading, or 30-minute $79 spiritual guidance or card reading, again, not mediumship. My mediumship starts at $99 for a 30-minute reading, and I go up to an hour for that. I have my Be Your Own Medium or Beginner's Mediumship workbook available digitally from my website or on Amazon in a paperback. Links are all below. Everyone, please subscribe to Aunt Jen 888 here on YouTube and follow her on Instagram as well. And if you would like to email her with any questions or inquire about any of her services, AuntJen1972 at Gmail is her email address. So, all right. So let's see. Hi, Steel Toe Sandals. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Serena. Hello, everyone. We are so happy you are joining us. Dawn's on a prep. Oh, good. Yeah, I used to sneak and watch live streams on my preps too.
Sneak us
Hi,
in.
Kelly Foster.
Kelly!
So guilt, Aunt Jen. Hi, Janet Jackson, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. Love it.
Every time you read her, it makes me laugh. I love it.
I know. I think of that. I think about driving down Sunset Boulevard, listening to the cassette, and I
Oh,
remember the cover of it. I don't know if it was CD yet. I don't remember, but I remember the cover of that album. Her control. I think that her Control album.
ugh.
I don't remember, but I remember
Don't ask
driving
me
down
that.
Sunset Boulevard and blasting that. So
Yep.
every time I see Janet Jackson on here, I think of that. Those good memories.
Those were fun
Um,
times.
she said it makes her laugh also. So I have tons of stories about feeling guilty about things. I'm sure you do too. What can you tell us about guilt, Aunt Jen?
Well, I'd like to start with the definition again,
Okay,
please.
perfect.
So guilt, and there's probably tons of them. So I did not spend research trying to find. I just put in guilt and found at the first one and was like, oh, this is pretty good. Um, sounds good.
Hey,
Like
I like it.
it landed right. So I
Work
was like, oh, I
smarter,
can
not
relate.
harder.
Yeah, I could relate. So guilt is a frequent, unpleasant emotion. So here we go again with another emotion that involves self-judgment and remorse. It can be a powerful indicator on empathy and motivate positive behavioral changes, and it can also be unhealthy. And I really enjoyed this particular definition to some degree because, first of all, like there's a lot of pieces to it, I think. Like one of them is like, again, it's another emotion. So realizing that these are emotions and like being able to understand our emotions, to give them a little less power, but to have a relationship with them. But also like the fact that it said, it's an indicator of an empath. Like, and so like someone who can,
Wow.
yeah, so somebody who can actually have that ability, because sometimes you'll think that people have no ability to feel guilt, whatever they're feeling. And it's not, we're just making notations of stuff. So it's just saying that, like, oh, that might be why somebody can actually access, is what I would use the verbiage of access their guilt, the guilt that lies within them because of their empathic tendencies that they may have. And that
Mm,
guilt can actually help you make some positive change. It's a very thin line, right? It can be
right.
very, very thin line between, the two. But I found that really powerful. And then, going back with the same, shame is a powerful emotion of feeling fundamentally flawed and unworthy of love and belonging. And, the great thing to kind of start off with regards to guilt is guilt and shame are besties.
Right. They're best
They
friends.
they are the best friends of all times. So they go together and they will sometimes one will play off of the other one while they're, or that'll bring you into the other feeling. And so I think that that's really important. I think that once I was able to really accept and understand that they were best friends like that, of being like, oh, that understand why I spend so much time in that pool with the two of them, right? Bouncing back and forth between the guilt and the shame and understanding that. Because I think that for me, one of them, they push each other right into each other. It's like, oh, wait, I'm not doing it. Oh, I'll take over, and it's like kind of one of those things. So I think that's the first part that I would start with, is like the definition and like talking about them being besties. And then from thinking about this subject, I go back to that movie, Inside Out. Like that movie really opened people's eyes to understanding all the different emotions and
Yeah.
feelings that we have. And that is kind of the preset of this. So like guilt and shame are there. And it's just sometimes those voices are a lot louder, but we have grace and love and kindness. And if you're like, well, I'm always in guilt, look, then ask Grace to come walk with you. Ask,
Wow.
you
That's
just like it's
profound.
like having a conversation within yourself. I mean, we're already having these conversations. And so it's like learning to kind of become friends with them. Like, yeah, they're best friends, but you want to become friends so that you can actually understand it instead of getting hijacked.
Mm. That really, really struck me. And please, everyone, and join the chat. Tell us your stories. Ask us your questions about guilt, shame. But when you said, use the example of that movie, and I think it's great for kids to see that movie because they don't always understand what they're feeling, and parents
Hmm.
aren't always equipped with the tools to teach them how
Hmm.
to deal with it. But that you said, ask Grace to walk with you. I have never, ever thought of it in that way. And that is giving yourself agency and control over how you navigate and feel moving forward.
Hmm.
And the part where you said, I write notes while you're talking so I can remember what to
Of course you do. I appreciate that because I can't take notes to save my life when I'm talking or someone else. So, like, kudos to you. We appreciate that aspect.
all those years of school. I'm a good note taker. But you talked about empathy and feeling so deeply. And it just makes me cry because I think knowing you as long as I've known you, you feel so deeply. And
Yes.
you have been criticized and judged
No.
many times by people who don't understand why you feel so deeply. And
Mhm.
because it's your depth of empathy is why you feel so deeply and why you feel guilt as deeply as you feel love.
Mhm.
You know, those pools are deep, and it just takes people who understand that other people can feel deeply, because a lot of people don't feel deeply. They don't
Mhm.
allow themselves to feel deeply.
Mhm.
Some people are, I say that this is my new line, they're shallow as a thimble.
Mm.
You know, they're not, they only go to the surface. If for any
Mhm.
youngins out there watching, if you don't know what a thimble is, it's a small little sewing tool to protect your fingers from getting stabbed, which is a whole other part of the metaphor for later. But e- people who are shallow don't understand people who feel deeply because they
Mm.
don't allow themselves to feel deeply.
Yes. That's the key. That's the key point. And talking again about, and I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No,
Okay,
I'm ready.
about emotions, like there's actually, I would encourage everyone, you can Google it, and like it's a chart of emotions. There's so many different feelings, a chart of feelings that are going on to like try and see if you can start to relate to like what you're feeling, because one of the ones that people think like you can access the easiest is anger. And that's why people are like, but they don't, you're not really actually angry. There's actually something else that's going on, but it's a go-to feeling because it's common and it's easy to access. But, I'd say more than 50% of the time, it's not really anger. It's really some other feeling that's going on. But we don't understand what those feelings are because we never taught them. We never learned them. We never like, I mean, you can go through all the different things. So like they're out there. There's not one that I can think of, like, off the top of my head. But I've Googled them and had them, and it's can be very powerful to like it's a circle chart that talks about all the different feelings that are out there, to be able to be, am I feeling this? Am I feeling this? Am I feeling, so you can get a little bit more clear about what you're feeling, because I think that like same thing with maybe guilt and shame, they're easy to access, but maybe you're actually not really feeling guilty, or maybe you are, but like the more that you'll kind of conversate with yourself to find out, am I really feeling guilty? No, like that's just my empathic side feeling guilty, but I'm not really feeling, that, like whatever that kind of is, but we just like stop with the emotion because it's so overwhelming that it's like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And I want to say, Vivian has a comment, but then I want to speak to exactly what you're talking about. Society turns us into the weird ones for being able to feel deeply. This needs to change.
Yes.
And that's exactly the point I was about to make next. Vivian is one of my mentees. And I feel like she has this constant psychic connection to my brain all the time, because I was just going to say, beneath anger is often pain and sadness.
Yes.
And so, right now in our society, and we all know people in our lives, family members, maybe parents, maybe kids, maybe siblings, maybe in laws, we all know people who are just angry and bitter and pissed off about every little thing that happens all the time. It's just constant. Anything can set them off. But our society has a lot of anger right now, and things are not getting easier. We are bubbling up. We're that shaken up Coke bottle, I always say.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much pain because fundamentally we were not shown the love and the peace and the serenity in a family unit.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't, our parents, their parents, their parents. It's generational trauma, and it's bubbling up to the surface. And this is make it or break it for us societally.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to get easier first. It's going to get harder first.
Mm-hmm.
And then some will survive and some will go back into hermit mode and hide, but we should address, I mean, our societal problems are vast. and they're complex, but we need to address the underlying condition. It's like this example. I talk to clients a lot, and they'll ask me different questions, and I say it's like a doctor who treats your secondary condition, but not
Mm,
your primary condition. They don't
mm,
try to find out what's causing your, fingers to swell. They'll just give you a pill for finger swelling, but maybe you have a pinched nerve and they won't do anything
mm.
about that, right?
Yeah.
But that's like what's happening in our society where people are just acting out so angrily on social media, in the news, and it's like there's pain there. There's
Hmm.
sadness there. There's loneliness, and loneliness is a whole other part of the story. Dawn
Yes.
Dawn said it takes too much energy to be angry. I agree. I made a conscious decision a couple of years ago not to be reactive in an angry manner in any discussion someone I
Mm.
love may get into with me. Because I'm a Sag Aries, so I'm fire, 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 and I used to fight and scream and yell, and I was really spending a lot of energy being angry. Um, Janet Jackson said, "When you are an empath, you have to learn when it is your feelings or you are picking it up from your surroundings."
Yes.
I teach
And
that.
that,
Yeah, I
mhm.
teach that in mediumship, and I'm sure you teach that in your classes as well. Your
But it's a
course.
process of learning, I think that like until someone can even tap into that feeling within themselves, then that's when you can actually start to have the discussions that go further out. But if people aren't even accessing that right within, then there's not even having some kind of conversation about like, well, is that yours? Is that like, it's like that. That's why sometimes it's just to celebrate, like, oh, wow, okay, good. You can actually feel that, right? You can feel that feeling. Now we can kind of move into somewhere else because there's a lot of individuals because of the pain and because of so many stories and things like they don't allow themselves to feel, and so they don't really have that accessible, and so then you can't even decide and differentiate between what's yours and what's not because you're not even being able to address the fact that that is something that you feel, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense because their individual stuff is like tentacles into the group think, right? So and this could be with a loving situation or a guilt or angry situation. If you're surrounded by people vibrating on your frequency, your tentacles go out whether it's good or bad. So
Mm,
you have a person just like what you said with that anger or pain or guilt, and they're not sure if it's theirs or these other people. So
mhm.
they're kind of all crossed around. I just imagine it like an octopus with a bunch of
Yeah,
tentacles
no, that's a
all
great
kind
way
of
to,
connecting each other, um,
yes.
with all of these emotions.
And I
And
would say that some of the emotions are more put upon us. So then it becomes a little more complicated to find out where it belongs. Like I would say that like guilt, people really love to spread that one. Like you're taught guilt, like it's kind of like in every culture. I think that it's like you're, if you don't follow this, then you can feel guilty because you're not doing what you're supposed to do or what's supposed to happen, and then people guilt you right into like doing things, and like it becomes very right, and then that's when I think that they become best friends, right? Then you feel guilty and then you're shamed for feeling whatever it is, and like so the two of them dance. They're the best of friends. The best.
exactly,
They're the
exactly.
best of friends, and a lot of it is really, at least from a lot of the feelings to begin with, realizing and understanding like we're programmed like a computer. It's
I
like you're
just
it's
wrote
like
that
a
down. I just wrote
what?
that was the note I just made.
Brain bridge. So it's like a computer, and you put in all the different things on the computer, the Mac, whatever it is of the program. And so it's like, then people will be like, well, then what do I do? Well, you clean out the system, and then you reprogram. You're reprogramming, but you still have to realize that you've been programmed to begin with, like to be able to realize that like within yourself you know, people can help and show that, but within yourself of being like, oh my gosh, I think I've been programmed to
Mhm.
feel guilty about this. Like, this is something that I've been taught. This is and then once you come to that place, if that's true for you, that's where I believe things can shift, because you actually like acknowledge something. If you can't acknowledge something, there's nowhere to really go. Like, and that's not wrong. It's like, that's the process to get there too. But guilt, I believe a lot of guilt is really put upon us.
Mhm.
And that, I think, is, again, when I saw that about the empath, it's like, I think that's why empaths will feel that more, is because we feel so much. And so it's like, you can just, guilt really will get you more than someone else of being like, oh, I don't really care. Like that's fine. They can, right. And we move into those things. But like, when you're a feely kind of person, you can feel with the other person. You know, you can want to do both could be true at the same time. And I think that's another thing. People always think like it has to be this or that, and it's like, no, it can
Mhm.
be, there's an and, like, instead of but, and, like, honestly changing that verbiage was one of the things that was really like, no, I don't use, I really try and catch myself. I don't use but very often. I use and, because there doesn't need to be a but this happened. No, and because they can both be true.
Right. Two things or 20 things or 100 things can all be true at once. And
Yes.
our minds are doing a lot of stuff. Our minds are doing a lot of stuff on a daily basis. We're trying to manage staying alive, feeding ourselves, basic human needs, jobs, money, bills, mortgages, cleaning the house, somebody calling with a problem, getting on the internet and watching a live stream. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Kelly, hello, darling. And I was going to say, I wrote down family, religious, societal programming right before you said we're programmed. We're programmed by our friends, as we turn into, teenagers. So when you're a little kid, you're programmed by your family mostly. Your parents may say, oh, you'd be a great lawyer because you're so argumentative. Well, guess what? You're going to become more argumentative and maybe become a lawyer. Maybe some parents will force you to become a lawyer. You
Mm,
feel programmed that if I don't do this, I'm not going to make my parents happy. And it's like, we don't have to make our parents happy. We should be respectful and loving and kind as long as they're reciprocating that. But
mm,
you don't have to be what they tell you to be. You
mm,
know, we don't have to be what society tells us to be.
mm,
Like like I was giving the example of you and you feeling so deeply and people in your life not understanding that. They were trying to reprogram you and you were like, I'm not getting reprogrammed. You may have thought about it sometimes. Maybe it'll be easier if I just accommodate them. But you're like, no, I'm standing in this fire all by myself and I'm doing it.
mm,
And I don't give a
mm.
fuck what anybody else thinks.
Pretty much. I mean, I just got stronger with my convictions, but
Right.
it just, the feelings were always would remind me of my process for myself, because in the end you always have yourself, right? And it's like, I mean, that's who we try to avoid, but that's the one that you really get to not avoid, so that you can address and understand the guilt and the shame and the all the different things, and have a better understanding of yourself, so that you can have a better understanding when people approach.
Hmm. Right. Exactly. And it's very commendable to you knowing you and your family and people, your friends and stuff, all the people that I know, all our mutuals, that you did stand up and say, I'm doing it my way.
Hmm. It's a I've made a TikTok about it, and I really, or a video about it. I don't really go on TikTok right now, but it's one of those things where it was like, I lost my train of thought, but it was a really good one. But it was like there was no other way for, like, to like, the loneliness of being alone, right? Of being on your own. Like, to me, like, there was the loneliness of being in the world with other people when I wasn't being true to myself, way it didn't match. And
Mhm.
so it was like, I might have been more isolating, people being like, wow, you really isolated yourself. And I was like, yeah, because that was my safe place. Like, it might have been isolating to other people, and like, I can definitely see now where it may have been too much at time. Like, we can spend the whole time doing that, right? I don't try and spend too much of that energy with myself. I try to learn from it, but not shame myself for what it was. But the truth was, is I spent a lot of time by myself because I needed to be with myself because of the judgment of other people, or the fact that I couldn't be authentic. Like, I don't know how to be anyone but myself. Like,
Yes.
I really don't. Like, I don't really, and so it becomes like, as I've become older, like I do understand discernment now, and like being able to like, so, but there still is discernment with authenticity. So it's like, being able to do that. But like, no, I'm not the alternative was lonelier. I felt
Oh,
because
I
I'm
agree.
seeking from like right. It was like it was way lonelier, and so once I realized that, it was a journey. And then once I realized, also not completely, but generally speaking, most of the people that if they had some kind of thinking back to certain things, they couldn't handle it. It really wasn't me. I was blamed and wronged for my feelings, but
Right.
they actually couldn't handle. I was expressing something that they weren't able to express. And so in their mind, I was wrong. And I was, being able to, but also I think is they were afraid of it themselves. They were afraid of my feelings. They were, because they were big. They're still,
Yeah.
they're very like, and so that for people can be very overwhelming in so many different ways. And I completely understand that. Like, you've learned definitely many different things about that. However, to me, it just is like, which is lonelier?
Right. I want to say hi to Mangled. Thank you for being here, honey. And it's okay if you're late, no problem. I'm just glad you're here. Um, and Vivian said, yes, I totally understand the feeling of loneliness when I choose to maintain the space to be my authentic self. Yes. And I just wrote again, Vivian, get out of my brain. I just wrote alternative was lonelier because you said the alternative was lonelier. And I just want to say there are people that I have known in my life and still know that I would rather be alone than
Hmm.
spend time with them because the inauthentic personalities, very different vibe than me, very shallow conversations. I or judge lots of judgment and guilt giving, lots of judgment and guilt giving in some of these scenarios. I would just rather I'd rather be alone in my
Hmm.
house forever than
Hmm.
spend time with people who are going to judge every single breath I take, every
Hmm.
comment I make,
Hmm.
every every sip of Coke I take. I could make a rhyme. Make a
You
rap.
just did. I mean, the truth is that, the truth of the matter is that I was judging myself more than you could ever judge me. So just leave me alone. Like,
Yeah.
leave me alone. Like, I am trying to find, like, if people don't think that you're going through your own process of self judgment or self, like, understanding, like, then turn it around on yourself. Like, I mean, so it was like, that was another reason is like, I am judging myself. I am analyzing myself. I am trying to grow from like maybe overfeel, whatever. Like, so I really don't, besides like just, not being authentic, like that was another reason of like I don't really want to be around you when it's like I'm already judging myself more than you could ever judge me, so thanks. Like, let's just go
Exactly.
ahead and like, right, and so it just becomes these, but I really believe a lot of it is they're uncomfortable. It makes them
Yeah,
uncomfortable
because they don't
within
know what to
themselves.
do. They don't know how to be authentic. That's a whole other freaking discussion.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
that is so 100% true. People don't know how to be around somebody who's so true to who they are because they are not, and they don't know what it is. They don't understand why they feel weird because they're not self-reflecting.
One, it can be safe, like we talked about before about like, one of the reasons why our friendship and whatever, like one, and there's many reasons, right, but one, I think we talked about unconditional love. There's that piece of, but I actually think just from talking about this too is it comes like we both are very authentic and don't know how to be anyone but ourselves. And so when we found each other at a young age of being like, wait, I could be myself no matter how jacked up this is, like, and then like not, and then not only that, but what we got on the other end, how the other person received us. No matter what came out of my mouth, no matter what, like, your response was never what I expected. And I'm sure it was the same, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't something that we got from somewhere else. It was always
Right.
like, wait, what? Like, and so then you're like, then you start to like have these different things because you and I didn't know how to be anything but authentic. We just, sometimes you lose sight.
Yeah.
Sometimes you lose sight of things. Sometimes like you're in something and like you can't be in there together. Like it's not gonna, you know, and you find your ways. But it's like, I think that that is a really big thing as I'm thinking about it. Like we both, because I'm thinking about people that I have a really close relationship with, and it's like they're authentic. Like, and if someone can't be authentic, like I have a really hard time connecting, and I'm not judging the other person. I just don't spend my time there. Like we talked about it before. Like I do not know how to small talk. What is small talk? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know how to be in it. I don't like, and so I just with my family, like I came from a very large family on one side, like I would just move. There were so many of them, I could just move on to the next one. Whoever wasn't off, it was like, okay, we'll just go to another one because it was like there was plenty of them, right? To be able to see is there someone here? And then usually the ones that I authentically connect with are the ones that were like me, that were out there doing something different, that we weren't following the path of the way the family was all doing it. And it was like, okay. Like, and so it's like,
And then making you feel guilty for not following their path.
or yeah, because they're
They
trying
wanted
to
you
like,
to.
right, they're trying to, but then there's also like the guilt of like where things can like be powerful, where you can have positive like behavioral changes. Like I do believe that that can be true of like
Oh
people
yeah.
giving you information, right? That's not guilt. Like, or sometimes that's the right word, but like that you can make it. It's a very thin line though, that only you can decide what that line is. But it's guilt is not just this whole, you know, that piece of reading that too. I was like, oh wow, that was a really interesting take on it. Like I would probably concur.
So there's some comments I want to go through and then I want to add something. Vivian said, I totally understand that feeling of loneliness when I choose to maintain the space to be my authentic self. Absolutely. Then Vivian laughed.
Peace over loneliness. I mean, you know, it's like I'd rather have peace.
And Dawn said, oh my God, yes, I think that was when I was talking about I'd rather be alone forever than with crazy people who don't get me. Not crazy people, but just people who don't get me. Holly said, powerful words, Jen, well said. And Carol said, good morning. It's okay, Carol. Thank you for being here. Mean Mort 1349 said hello. And Mangled is talking about our fun-free Halloween live stream special. You're going to be joining for that Friday?
Yeah.
I think you'll be the first on.
Oh yeah, I'll set it off. Let's go.
4:30 Pacific, okay. 7:30 Eastern. And so I'm so excited. And I wanted to say, you were talking about self-judgment. My husband has been sober for 27 years. And sometimes when we're discussing things heatedly, occasionally, less occasionally now than earlier in our marriage, he would say, listen, nobody's judging me harder than I'm judging myself. Because in addiction, if anybody out here has a loved one or you yourself has dealt with addiction, addiction is so up here in your head because you're beating yourself up all the time about, so you get sober for a little while and you're so proud of yourself, but then those thoughts come in about why did I do all that stuff? And then back up here. And then some people go back out and do the addiction, or they get a new addiction or a new thing. And they're just judging themselves constantly because of all the things in their past that led them to the addictive behavior. Because that Coke bottle is always shaken up and it's always ready to burst at any time. You can't hold all that in. It will come out in a way. And sometimes that's addiction. Sometimes that's, an eating disorder, gambling problem, sex addiction, drugs, alcohol, shopping, anything, beating yourself up here. Constant self-judgment is just, it's such a hard habit to break because it takes so much self-reflection, so much thinking all the time about what could I have done different? And so there's this judgment and reflection sometimes going back and
Mm,
forth, trying to figure out there's so much happening in my brain, I can't even take the first step.
yeah. And I mean, so many things that you've said, there's so many sidebars, but I'll just,
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, talking about it, like,
That's why I take notes
I'm
because I
like,
get distracted by so many sidebars too.
wow, we should talk about that at some point, and not minimizing. And I've had very many spins with that particular. And I personally have found from my respected teacher, Gabor Mate, that addiction comes from trauma. And when you heal your trauma, the addiction will move. And I am a firm believer of like how that actually happens. Like I'm
I
living
agree with
it. And
that.
so everyone gets to have their own thing of how you do whatever you do and what you do and go wherever and whatever. But when I heard that, I was like, huh, I want to see. I'm going to run with this one. I want to see, like, and it was probably my addiction running with it, being like, let's just see. Well, this guy sounds great, right? And it's like, oh, hold on, wait. And as the trauma has been healed, the addictive personalities of certain things have definitely shifted and changed. And it's because of doing the work with trauma
Mhm.
personally.
I have
Personally, that is what I found. And when we ignore the trauma and we ignore that piece and we try and find some quick answer of what you're going to stay in, you're become a dry drunk, as they use the term
yeah,
or whatever. You're not really, and that's not for me to say. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do in this lifetime. I've really learned, like, tried to learn of like, it's just that when you're again talking about feeling, like I feel so deeply, I just want everyone to come. I just want everyone to
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I've never had anything other than that. Like there's never been, but it's like,
Mhm.
it's not my place to know where someone's, lineage is or what they're supposed to do. And then also looking at my own and being like, oh, they weren't supposed to do the generational healing. Oh, I am. Oh, I signed up. Oh, okay. Like, and going through the emotions of different things of being upset about it, accepting it, right? Like of like all the different kind of pieces of it, but it's my piece, right? I don't go around announcing it like, oh, by the way, I'm doing all like it's no, it's like it's your own, but it's an understanding within myself. So it's
Mhm.
kind of the same thing as like however someone looks at anything that you do that's more is an addictive behavior. Like people love to look at booze and like, but all that, whenever I see that and I watch sometimes I watch these shows to see where it comes from and track people, it's all because of trauma. It's that this root cause of like, I mean, I would say that with like, I don't, yeah, we're not going to go there. Anyway,
I will say this. Since I read this book, and this is my book club book, we're going to chapter, I want to
8.
say 8.
I think you're on 8 or 9. I'm
Yeah,
following you, girl.
yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In this book, which I read, which my niece Mandy gave me in 2014, um, Eckhart Tolle says addiction is a failure to face and move through your pain. And because my husband has been in recovery for 27 years and we've been married almost 30 years, I have repeated that to him many, many times. It's Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. Here, let me take that off. Somebody was asking. Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. Be prepared if you're going to read it. It really, you learn a lot about humanity when you read it and yourself. It's a wonderful read, changed my life. You're welcome. So I agree absolutely completely. And you know what? I was addicted to cigarettes, smoked a lot of pot back in the day. Um, but when I quit cigarettes, the 5 or 6 times I quit, it didn't really drive me crazy. Like it was a process, but once I quit, I quit. But that's not to shame anybody who smokes. I'm telling a bigger story here. I was the kid that was always talking about all her problems. Blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah, 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 blah. All through my teenage years. My mom died suddenly at 15, had to move across the country, live with my dad and stepmom and 2 stepsisters who I didn't know before that. It was a huge change going from Missouri to San
Mhm.
Francisco at 15 years old, left everyone I ever knew, blah, 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 very traumatic. But I was a talker, blah, 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 all the time. My friends at school got so sick. Thank God I went to the school I went to because it was a really had some really good resources for me. Um, I was always talking out my problems.
Hmm.
And both my parents were addicts. Both biological parents were addicts. My mom smoked through all her pregnancies, through our childhood, in the house. My stepmom smoked in the house till she quit years later. So I was surrounded by addiction to alcohol, drugs, cigarettes all my life. And how I did not become a drug addict. Can you hear that noise? Sorry,
Mm.
my window's open and the recycling people are picking up the recycling. Sorry if it's loud.
Oh no, I actually heard little bells or something. It
Oh,
sounded like, or
okay.
chimes.
So anyway, okay, bye. Thank you, Jax. Um, I don't know how I didn't become an alcoholic or a drug addict. I really don't. I should have been, but I think it was because I was talking all the time. I have this problem. I have this problem. Oh my God. My mom, my dad, my stepmom, my sisters, blah, 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 all the time. I talked it out all the time. Everybody I knew probably hated it. I wasn't holding it in. I wasn't holding it in. And I think
No.
people are taught to hold it in.
Mm.
And
Yes.
that's, I think, what happened to my husband. He was taught big boys don't cry, don't talk about it, put it under the rug, which a lot of families do.
Yes. Well, and also, that, I mean, that's a whole nother thing, right? It's like the lineage, where you fall on and it's like you could have one feeling and then all of a sudden another sibling comes along and it's like, oh, we're like, this one's got so much, it's like, that's what I think about with my brother. I'm like, he didn't have a chance. It was like, oh, this girl has got like, so trying to learn that though, but then you start there's never too late. It's never too late to like, if whatever you think you're trying. I think that's what people always think. It's like, where are you trying to get to? Like, it's like, you're going to just keep on, until you become, I still believe that people don't make a change until they're in pain enough. Like you're not going to do anything until something really pushes you that it's so painful that you're actually willing to make a change in whatever way that looks like. Because even guilt can't make you make it can make you make a change, but it won't have you sustain a change because you're just doing it for somebody else. And then you'll end and then what happens is that's why guilt and shame are such best friends. Because
Right.
then you're guilted, then you feel shameful because you couldn't even do what you were going to do that someone guilted you into, even yourself. Right. And so these like they just go, and then that's when it's like, oh, ask Grace to come walk. And what I mean by that is like, so like for me, I look at it as like I use that analogy as me as a coach. Like we're on a trail. Okay, you're on a trail, you're hiking, you're trailing on your own. I'm at a rest stop, willing to walk with you and help you as you're going along on your journey, but you're doing the journey on the path yourself. Like I can't do it for you. I can't decide how far you're going to walk. I can't decide. So it's like you get to invite, even though it's a lonely path, because it really is. The truth of the matter is it can be very lonely because you're coming more into yourself to be able to get clear of who you are. I think that once you become even stronger about that, it becomes a little less lonely, but it still is it still is a lonely path. Yet when you can realize and understand that others are walking on the path with you, right next to you, they're just doing their own little journey, right? Of like their little walk. So you look at it like that, like you and I, right? We're on a journey. We've been walking together for 40 years on the path, right? Sometimes we got like recently we got literally like left at a pit stop and it was like, wait, where'd she go? Oh, I don't know. She's gone, right? And it was like, okay. And then time goes on when you're doing things and then we came back together beautifully. Like you have different things like that, but you can also invite different pieces and parts of yourself as you're learning, besides all the guilt and the shame and the wrongness. You can invite the other pieces of you that maybe you're not even aware of. Like you're like, well, I don't even know what grace or self-love is. Well, it's starting right there. Like you're literally just starting right there of like an invitation. Come on, Grace, why don't you walk with me? Come on, self love. Why don't you walk with me while you're sitting there in the full blown guilt?
Would you
If that,
say, I have a question about grace because unfortunately not everybody knows all the language and hasn't been given the tools, and that's why we're here, right? We're here to help. And if
Yeah,
one person
that's
does
it.
one thing that helps them, that I'm thrilled about that, right? If
Yes.
1,000 people
Yes.
hear it, I'm thrilled about that. One or 1,000 doesn't, or a million doesn't matter, as long as somebody's hearing something helpful. And would you say grace is like unconditionally loving yourself and giving yourself space to not feel guilty about something you did or beat yourself up about it? How
I
would you
would.
define it?
I would. And I'd also say, because it's something that Grace right now is something I'm trying to invite in, is I also think it's a softness,
Mm, agreed.
which is something that, like, I was raised in San Francisco my whole life. Like, there wasn't soft, like, I'm soft inside, but I couldn't be soft because I didn't really have anybody watching me. I was out there on my own. And so it was like, I had to, like, be able to make sure I could, like,
We
the
were
city raised me.
super we were super feral out there in the
Yeah,
wild,
the
even
city
across
raised
the
me in a
whole.
lot of
Yeah,
different
yeah,
ways. And
yeah.
so I think, you're ever evolving. Like, I like, if someone was to describe me, right, or I describe myself, there are certain cores that I believe stay with who I am. But there's also things that are navigating, that are kind of becoming, some of them are becoming a little more and some of them are becoming a little less. I've always been someone who's very loud, very, like, just like all that, where I find grace to be a little softer. Like, I'm trying to welcome in some softness. Like, I think that bringing grace in with self love is a softer version. Like, you're also allowing grace of, like, I think that grace and compassion can be very close together. It's like having some grace for yourself. Like, it's the same kind of thing as having some compassion for yourself. Like, they can go hand in hand. And so I think that, like, to me, grace is like this bigger version of, like, a full encompassing of things, of, like, compassion and softness, and, like, so it's like, that's how I look at grace. I didn't even look it up. If you want to, if someone wants to look it up, like, to see what grace actually, the definition, well, because I like the definition sometimes, right? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
but that's what I
Yeah,
would say. That's what I
because
would say, maybe, is like, it's a you're graceful, right? Like, it's, I remember, and thinking about that, I remember, like, when I've fallen or tripped or whatever, like, even you've been like, you fall so gracefully. Like, it was like, I'm not a graceful person, but, like, I definitely would stumble gracefully, like, for whatever reason. Like, it wasn't this, whereas if I'd walk, it was like, but when I would fall, it was like this, like, how did that happen? Like, so it's like, the grace is in there, right? It's like, but I really believe, again, it's like, you have to give it to yourself. You have to give yourself grace. Like,
mhm,
we're expecting everyone else. Will you just give me a little bit of grace? Will you just give me a little bit of, like, space to be like, it's like, are you doing it? That's the question I would always say, is, are you doing that for yourself first? And if you're not, you honestly might want to spend your energy and time there first before going out there and trying to deal with someone else who, like, good luck.
right.
Good luck, because they're going to treat you and come from the place of where they are with themselves. So if you're, like, meaning, like, pay attention to your audience. Are you expecting grace from someone who can't even give grace to themselves or doesn't even understand? Like, wrong audience, right? And some of these things are like, I mean, you didn't probably know this is something I've been working on, is grace, right? It's like, sometimes I keep the things to myself because I did talk so much. And so now it's more along the lines of, like, okay, let's play with these feelings. Again, the feeling wheel. Highly encourage, like, and if we had one of those people, someone on here, it's like, the minute we say something and they, someday, girl, and they'll be like, all of a sudden the grace, that'll just pop up, like, the feeling wheel, right? But there is a feeling wheel.
Exactly.
So,
We have some comments. Serena, hello, darling, said, I love that. Grace being unconditional love and softness for yourself.
mm,
Very, yes. Good, good, good. Steel toe sandals said self-compassion and self-forgiveness are a part of grace. Agree.
yes.
Vivian said a burnt marshmallow charred by society on the outside, still soft and sweet in the inside. Yeah, exactly. And I want to
And
say
gooey.
gooey. I want to say something that I want to talk to. You said you were loud. And when you said that, it reminded me of another loved one I had that's very loud, that I have that's very loud. And it made me think of the similarities between your two childhoods.
Mm,
And you've both been saying, see me, see me, I'm here, because all this other stuff was prioritized or paid attention to, and
Yes.
you're just screaming for pay attention. Pay
Well,
attention.
I wasn't, that goes back to the philosophy of what I believe in, that is the core of my coaching is, and I started with myself. I wasn't heard, felt, or seen. And
Mhm.
it's not to make other people wrong. Like, again, however, people affected by what I'm saying, that's your story and that's your stuff to work through. But I was not heard, felt, and seen ever. Like, it was, and there was not happening. And so I first had to learn, I first found others that would hear me, feel me, and see me. Example, you, which gave me the space to be able to hear, feel, and see myself, which made me realize that's why I'm here. For me personally, there's many other things that will stem from it, but that's the core of what I offer and what I stand for in my coaching is I want a space where someone comes and you're heard, felt, and seen, because I personally believe that's actually where healing begins. Once you're heard, felt, and seen, then it's like, oh, it's kind of like one of those, like, your story doesn't have to kind of keep going. Not that the story is a story, right? It's real. But like, once you're validated on that from in a way where you're actually heard, felt, and seen, what can happen is remarkable, in my opinion. And that's
I
why I won't
agree.
stop.
I agree. Thank you, Dawn, for taking your lunch with us.
Oh, yeah, Dawn, have a good time back at work.
I have a question. I know previously in your coaching, and I haven't had an update in a while on this, you used to have a marriage ceremony where someone marries themselves.
Yes.
Can you, as we wrap up here, can you tell me tell everyone? I know because you told me before. Pretend I don't know.
Okay.
Tell us all the purpose of your coaching program where you marry yourself at the end.
Well, first, it kind of goes in a couple folds, right? If that's even the right word, but I'm using fold right now. But
We're gonna use it. We're keeping it.
okay, thanks. Because you know me, I like to make up words. But first of all, I think it's really important because it's when I've made that commitment to myself, it kind of like um it's very powerful. But before I get to that piece, I think that another piece that I just want to put out there to people is like, people, because I know that and again, most of the stuff that I'm speaking and sharing is because I was there. Like, so it's not like I'm sitting there being like, oh, da, 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 da. It's because I've actually lived it. It's a lived experience that I've had that turned into the creation of doing a self-love marriage ceremony, which was realizing that a lot of people talk about they want to get married, but it's really about the wedding. It really, really, like, when I, come and see that, like, and it's also the false fantasy in your mind of what this relationship really is with another person. And then the reality comes, and usually they
We
don't.
need to have that for next week because I have 7 million comments about that.
And so it's to get it like check it off your list. So let's just have our own ceremony where you're marrying yourself so that you can, and you could do it like as, big as you want or not as big or like, whatever, but having this kind of like, even to the fact of I even created this whole thing of like, it was a book of like asking myself to marry myself. Like, we can create this book of like, because that's another thing. Oh my gosh, how they're going to ask me. And like, it's because of society of what we're taught that if this doesn't happen to you, you're not anybody. And
Right.
so I felt that I wasn't going to be not anybody. And it was important to kind of see if that could kind of alleviate some of the pressure that I was putting on myself from other people putting it on me. Because I mean, I've never been married. I've not had anyone ask me to marry them. I have not like had these different long-term relationships. I've had the most long-term relationship with myself. Like, that is my number one priority, is my relationship with me and how that evolves. And then that evolves of who you're even going to attract in the kind of the different things. But like, society really puts a lot on you that if this doesn't happen to you, there's something wrong with you.
Right. I say this, you do not have to be chosen to be worthy.
You have to be chosen from yourself.
Right.
Is what's really, really important. And like, someone that chooses you, like, be careful what you're, like what you're accepting as the choice
Yes. Yes.
and
Let's
being
talk about
honest.
this
We
next
should
week
talk about that. And this is a big one of
because
like,
this is a very, very big subject. I mean, if I didn't have appointments to get to, I'd go on for hours right now. But I think this is good. I will say personally, I never fantasized about a wedding. I did get
yeah,
married. Obviously, I've talked about it. I had a small wedding, which I'm grateful for because people spend 20, 30, 80, 100,000, $1 million on a wedding and get divorced 6 months later. Like my wedding cost $1,000 in the 90s. It was
it's the
pretty budget.
wedding.
It was pretty budget friendly. But I never fantasized about a big wedding. I
Yeah.
fantasized about having food to eat every day. You know, having
I was
somebody
more interested in if I was going to do that path, I was more interested in what the marriage,
right.
what that was versus like what this large amount of money that you're putting off to invite people to a party that like but it's not, there's no judgment on it, but it's about getting clear and clarity on what that is.
And then the other part is about weddings. Women, a lot of times, not every time, women who don't know that things are going to change dramatically after the big fancy wedding. And then they're going to be responsible. Some women, not all women, less now than in the old days. In the old days, it was more so.
Hmm.
They had to make the appointments for the husband, keep track of all this and take the emotional load of the family, take care of the kids, do the dishes, do the laundry, do the this. That's much less so now. But back in the day, even when women went into the workforce, they were also doing all of that labor, the invisible labor and the emotional labor.
And the one thing that I would say about, because we've been talking about it, so it feels relevant to bring that up, and then we'll leave it with you and see how it feels, and we can bring it back next week, is that there's something that transpires, because this was something that also kind of kept me being like, I don't know, because I believe this philosophy. There's something that transpires when two souls are standing there and you say, I do. It's a program. You've signed into a program the minute that you say that. And I'm not sure that the place that I've been at, that program is not good for me. Like it takes away some responsibility. If I can't explain, like I'm still like dissecting it in different ways for myself. But once you get clarity of programming, when you see that with yourself of how you've been programmed from different areas, how you continue to be programmed, how the areas that you show up were the ones that you choose to all of a sudden be programmed. That is the one thing that I would put it with, is that it's a program, like something, because people are like, I don't understand what happened. Something happened the minute. Yeah, because you went into this program. There's a certain program that takes place once you're married. Like it's hard to describe, because me, girl. Like I don't always know how to like articulate things.
We're gonna articulate it.
Okay, great. Because you can be I feel and know, I have this feeling and knowing, but the actual articulation has gotten way better over the years. But most of the time, that's why I've kept my mouth shut, because people are like, I can't even communicate with people to articulate what I'm trying to say of my belief, because it'll just be shot down instantly. And so it's like, to some people, they'll be like, what are you talking about? It's like, okay, then great. But to people that are like, oh, I get programs. Oh, wait, then this will make sense of like, and so to me, I'm not sure I want to sign up for that program. Like, right. So it's like there's all these different things, but yet people don't even think about that, because they're just like, oh, I want a wedding, right? I want to get married because that's showing someone cares about me. But
and like the wedding is also a program.
Yes.
And spoiler alert.
Yes.
Spoiler alert for next week. I would
alert.
have waited, if I would have had someone advising me the way I would advise me now, 30 years ago, I would have waited much longer to get married, if ever. Not that I don't love my kids and my grandbaby and one more on the way. I love them dearly, love my husband, but I was woefully unprepared for marriage, woefully unprepared. And so was my husband. And that's not making him or me wrong. It's just we were young and traumatized.
Yeah.
So next week, Marital programming. Don't do it.
No, don't say that. It's a choice. Everybody gets a choice. I mean, we have choices. That's what we get to realize, is that we all have choice. Like, we can choose to be happy too, and start to like go through the process of doing that. You can't just be like, oh my gosh, I want to be happy, and like it becomes that magic. It's not that magical, and it can be.
Yeah, it's situational.
Yes.
Everyone, yes, Vivian, love is love. Don't need a marriage certificate to label or define love. Exactly. Thank you guys for joining us. If you stayed to the end, next week, marriage. Dun, dun, dun.
Wait, marriage. Okay. I mean, we can. I really would like, there's a lot of like, I would love to discuss like the chasing of a marriage. Like
Yeah, all of it.
chasing, like whatever.
All of
Okay.
it. We're gonna
Thinking that
discuss all
that's
of
what's
it.
going to make you be like complete.
Our conversations do this.
They do, because I mean, how much do we talk about guilt? So I mean,
We got it in there.
We did, right?
In
Okay.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
Did we check it, Vivian? Check.
Yeah. Vivian said, sounds like a scary movie.
We love you, Vivian. We love you.
We love you guys.
We love all of you.
See you next week. Or we'll be live Friday.
Oh, right. We're not talking about marriage on Friday, though.
Friday's going to be fun.
Okay.
Fun Friday. Halloween. Woo, woo, woo.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.